I think like part of
Mm-hmm.
that, there's a book called Digital Minimalism that talks about this. And it's like, I think the first chapter is it just talks about how humans before like 2007, when I think that's when the iPhone came out, like they had so much more time like with their thoughts and alone to like contemplate stuff and like kind of just think about life, and they were not distracted. And then if you
Mm-hmm.
think about before like technology, because like there was still like computers and stuff then and TV, but if you think about before technology, like humans were always like waiting in line for something. You're just bored. If you're eating a
Mm-hmm.
meal, you're just bored and you're just eating your meal. And I think that's something where like the connection between like your spirituality and like your like how you spend your time when you're bored, I think those two are like really connected, as far as like that's when like you realize like who you are,
Mm.
and that's when you tend to like have like more of like a sense of purpose. So I think
Yeah.
like just simple things like it's like everything's connected. It's like once you start to care about your health, you start to care about your spirituality, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And like thing
Absolutely.
and there's just like a large difference between people that are like claim that they're healthy, but they're just like only in it for the looks, and then people who are like looking for like a whole like physical, like mental, physical, like everything across the board. And I don't know, I just think like that's something that's like I like about like the Twitter sphere that I'm in, is it's
Right.
like it's not just about like what you look like, which I think is like part of like why you can like go on steroids and stuff but then still like be completely unhealthy and die early.
Mm-hmm.
um so I guess, yeah, I just think like if there's one thing that like is so valuable, it's literally just going off your phone like at night, not for just the sleep, but just for
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
resetting your brain and all that. And then also like in the morning, just like kind of going for a walk and not going on your phone.
Yeah.
It's like even like I always forget like how valuable it is until I do it. And then I'm like, I wasted so much time doing these things. And like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't feel good doing it. And it's like my work is worse. So it's like it's something you
Right.
have to constantly remind yourself of. And I think sometimes like putting in rules in place, like no phone in the bedroom, like no phone when I'm going to take a poop, or I don't know, other random things like that.
No. Yeah.
They're just so valuable as from the aspect of getting off of your phone. um and I just think that's something that is lost with
Yeah.
modern technology and the ease with which you could always distract yourself.
Yeah. There's a lot of like points I can relate to that. Like, first of all, my mornings have changed because I don't use my phone anymore in the mornings, and I find it like if I do like even scroll for like 30 seconds in the first hour of the day, I become like literally like retarded throughout the whole day. Like I can't even think well.
Yeah.
Um yeah, and this before bed thing is something I have to implement because I use my phone before bed because I love to watch South Park before bed. And it's like the thing that most calms me down, and I laugh I just love it so much. But I don't know, it's an interesting point because I've been reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Mm,
I'm finishing it this week, and my brother asked me when I was reading, like, how were they so wisdomful, like in that level 2,000 years ago? And my simple answer was like, they did not have their phone in their pockets all day. That's it, because they have time to think, they have time to ponder, they have time to be bored. I mean, being bored is more than just being bored. It's a state of fucking like creativity
mm.
almost. Um, yeah, it's like a point where you're not distracted and you're just there to receive like messages and shit you've been ignoring. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those are really interesting points.
I really liked Meditations. And I think one of the main things that connects kind of what you said with like boredom and stuff is that like you can like some of the main principles of like stoicism, such as like being grateful and being like only controlling what you can control, and like believing in God and believing in nature, and like some of the main principles in that, like I find that like they're like more applicable when you're not on technology and like you're disconnected. So for
Right.
example, like are you really going to be grateful when you're like scrolling social media and like you see someone who's jacked, and then you're like, oh, like I'm not as
Exactly.
like
Mm-hmm.
physically attractive as them, or like seeing some dude with a girl and you're like, oh, like I wish I had that. And I think there's like you're just not going to be grateful when you're doing that, or like watching people fight back and forth. So it's like it's a lot easier to be grateful when it's like you're just sitting in your room and you don't have anything, and you're like, I want more money, I want whatever, I want more power, whatever you want. But it's easy to like be more grateful when you're not on technology and you're not like numbing yourself. And then
Shit.
like I said, like there's just other things in stoicism that only could have been like thought of, I think, when you were bored. Like such a thing as
Right.
like the bread thing where it's like, oh my god, like look at how the loaf of bread like does whatever, which is like some like famous one, like famous part of the book. And
Hmm.
then also like the one about like waking up in the morning and like being like not wanting to get out of bed. Like those are things
Yeah.
like that. It's like, okay, well, like he could have just got out of bed and like looked at his phone and not even like had that realization.
Yeah.
But it's like you can only have a realization and like smart ideas almost when you're bored. And yeah, it's just like too many people just like go through the motions and don't realize that like
Hmm.
nothing is going to be accomplished by just like rushing through life and like always striving for more and more, because you're never going to be fully satisfied when you get to the end of the road and you realize that the whole time you were just striving for what you could have already been
Right.
satisfied with what you currently have and what you have accomplished in the last few years, but instead you're just like going forward and forward.
Hmm.
So I think that's something where I don't know, it's valuable like
No,
within
that's
itself, just being bored.
yeah. And that last point was beautiful. What a beautiful intro to the episode.